Well, we're joined by Giants tight end Theo Johnson as they prepare for this game against the Saints. And I think the one thing that everybody wants to ask right away is when you lose an impact player like Malik Nabers to injury, that first time without him is going to be significantly different, especially for a guy who's got so much ability. What are your expectations in terms of how the offense will operate in his absence and also how the defense decides to play you guys differently knowing he's not there?
Yeah, so, when you lose, there's no replacing Malik. There's nothing else to say about that. You can't replace a guy like that, but it's just going to be on everyone else in the offense to pick up a little bit more slack, do a little bit more in the game plan. And then, as to what the defense is going to do, might see some more man that we've seen than we've seen the last couple of weeks, just because, we don't have Malik out there. But I'm super confident in all the guys, and I think everyone's going to do a good job of picking up the slack that he left off.
All right, we all know you can't just fill the shoes. Is it the speed, the yak yardage, the intimidation factor that he is such a big play guy? Which do you think is the biggest aspect that has to be compensated for?
Yeah, I think there's just he has a lot of production. He gets a lot of targets, a lot of catches. So those are going to have to be filled by someone else, or probably in our case, a multiple of other people. It's not going to just be one guy that fills that hole and gets all those targets. It's going to have to be on everybody else, to make those plays when they come their way.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we saw last week is that the Giants ran the ball 42 times and only had 21 pass attempts against the Chargers, which means the running game is also going to have to pick up some of this offense's responsibility. As a tight end, your role, you do everything. You're an all-around tight end. But how do things change for you when you know you might be a heavy running team?
That's something as a tight end, that you're going to be asked, like you said, to do everything. So we wanted to establish our run game early in the season. I think we've done a good job of that last week. I think having a good QB run game has helped. It helps open up a whole lot of other things. So we don't bat eyes a tight end unit, knowing that we're going to have to run the ball a little bit more, and honestly, run the ball well helps open everything else up in the pass game. So having a good running game is really important for the game plan.
We always ask offensive linemen, when you have a mobile quarterback behind you, do you have an instinct about where he's going to go and what he's going to do and how he's going to extend a play? As a tight end, you're on the end of that line a lot of times. Do you have to also kind of account for that too? Yeah,
the one thing our coaches have been telling us since Jackson's taken over is, you always got to stay alive. You always, the play's never over when you think it's over. He's going to scramble. He's going to, make plays with his feet. So even when you think the play's done or you might think he might be somewhere, you got to stay alive and keep playing.
All right. Now, one of the things that I thought was very important that we saw the other day, Cam Scatterbo is the kind of guy who seems to energize you folks. He makes one of those dirty yardage runs, tough runs, barrels into some people, drags some people. It looks as though, I certainly know it energizes the crowd. It looks like it energizes you guys in the huddle as well. Could you discuss maybe the emotional impact that one of his runs has on you guys?
Yeah, playing with the energy and effort and toughness and grit that he plays with, like you said, it energizes the whole team, not just the offense. The defensive guys watch, they see a guy that's giving his all out there, that gives them juice to then, play their all. It asks everybody to elevate their game. When you see a guy that's still running and you might be jogging on the backside and he's not going down, you got to run and catch up and try and make a block for him. You can't just, watch a play. So I think what he's done, the energy he's brought, not only with his play, but with his energy on the sideline and how he, approaches being a leader on the team, has really brought a lot of juice to us.
Huddle up, get in here. If you're lined up here, you got to go over the middle with it to score.
Right. How do we make that happen?
I don't know.
But Citizens does.
Make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of Eli Manning.
Let me ask you a little bit about also the run blocking, because there are times when as a tight end, you might be asked to be a fullback or an H-back. Now, I don't know how much of that you did at Penn State, but has that been a difficult transition for times when you're asked to do that?
Not at all. At Penn State, I played everywhere. I played in the backfield, H-back, all the way out wide, honestly similar to what I'm doing now. I'm not doing a ton of H-back stuff now, but, I'm still asked to do it. You've seen last game, I was kind of leading up on some fullback dive stuff. So, it's something I've done a lot in college. It's something I'm comfortable doing, and I wouldn't say it was a difficult transition for me.
All right, I want to go back to a second for the inspirational emotion that Scalaboo has. Your quarterback has that too. And I'd love to know what he is like in the huddle, because you and him seem to have a good chemistry going.
Yeah. Jackson has a lot of juice, great energy, just a natural leader. The way he talks, he commands everyone's attention when he's in the huddle. And I think that's really important as a quarterback to have your respect of everyone else is blocking for you. When we get lined up, we want to make sure that we're protecting our guy back there, because we know that he's gonna get those gritty yards as a quarterback. He's gonna throw his throwing hand into someone's face, and as a protector, we want to protect a guy that's gonna give his all for the team.
He seems to have such a confidence and assertiveness. When we see him at practice, we've seen him a little bit in the games, obviously, but we also talk to him in interviews. He has a maturity that belies his age. I mean, I know you're only a second-year player yourself, but he seems like a guy who's been in this league for 8-9 years.
Yeah, I think Jackson is probably one of the most confident people I've ever met, and it's unwavering confidence. It doesn't matter what anyone else is saying, what the outside world's saying, what other people might think, any preconceived notions. He believes with 100% certainty in his heart that he's the best. He's going to make plays. He's going to win the game. He's going to do his part to help us win the game. And I think that's a trait that is invaluable. Like it's something that you can't put a price on.
All right. How much do you think it helps this offense to have Andrew Thomas back in the lineup? We saw him play a full game last week. Obviously, blindside protection for the quarterback, but it really goes further than that, doesn't it?
Man, I love playing next to AT, especially as a young tight end last year. The first 6 games I got to play with him, I really saw what having a Pro Bowl All-Pro left tackle playing next to him, just his knowledge of the game. It helps me play better. So having him back has been huge. He's such a great player, and I'm really glad to see him back healthy.
It's funny. A lot of times people will talk about, they'll say, well, how can one guy make that much of a difference? But when you are that much of a talent and you're that much of a steadying influence on everybody else, it does make a difference.
Huge. Yeah, huge difference. Like I said, when you have a guy that just knows so much, he helps everyone else around him.
Yeah.
And especially with the O-line, they all have to work in tandem. They all set as one. They all work as one. So when you take a pivotal piece like that out, it causes some waves. It causes some changes.
No doubt.
And having him back has just been huge. I know for me personally, but also other tight ends, and I'm sure the other linemen as well.
If you want to know how to manage 2 minutes of crunch time football, I'm your man. But if you're wondering about a long-term financial plan, you should talk to Citizens. Hey, I can also talk lawn care.
I'd like to learn about a mowing routine.
Yes, I knew I could help. Make sense of your money with Citizens.
All right, let me go back to Jackson for a second. Jackson Dart, the quarterback, in case I didn't say his last name before. I think you know who he is. We've heard stories that last week going into his first NFL start, he made a lot of phone calls late at night to the coach, to some of the receivers. Did you get one of those phone calls? And what was that like?
Man, Jackson will call me at all weird hours of the night. He called me late one night this week. And I was like, man, what's this guy doing? And I wasn't sure where he was. He was up in Dave's office, and they were talking about the red zone plan.
Right.
And he's talking to me about some of the red zone plays and what he sees my role being on a particular play. That guy is always the last one out of the building. He is here all hours of the day. He truly invests himself and gives himself to to this organization. Just seeing the way he's worked, it's exactly what you want to see in your starting quarterback.
I think it's interesting because I've been telling people that Russell Wilson certainly provided a lot of leadership, and he lets you guys know what it takes to be a champion. Heck, he's gone to the Super Bowl twice and won one. But I think the quarterback room, there was a lot of influence there. I don't know Jackson from his days at Ole Miss, so I can't test his study habits there. I suspect they were really good. I really do. But I think Russell Wilson has also kind of helped all of you guys in that locker room about detail and about focus.
Yes.
And about, hey, you got to be a winner. Well, you got to do these things. Am I right?
100%. Yeah, I think, for me, being a younger player in this league, seeing a guy that's a proven guy in this league, knows what it looks like to be on a championship level team, seeing how he's approached his work every day, how consistent he's been, I know it's helped me, and I'm sure it's helped Jackson, the other quarterbacks, and everyone else on this team.
Now, did you go to the tight end university school during this offseason?
I did, yeah.
All right. So the obvious question, what did you gain from that? How did that help make you better this year?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing I took away from that, it was a great experience. I was around all the top tight ends in the league, guys that have been in the league prior and have had a ton of experience and done a lot of great things. And I think, the biggest thing for me I learned personally is bringing more physicality into every aspect of the game. So sometimes in the route game, I try and like to be cued. I play receiver in high school. So sometimes I like to rely on my speed. And the thing I learned there is like, man, you're 260 pounds, you're big and fast. That is very hard to cover. But if you only use one of those aspects, it makes it just a little bit easier for the defender to cover. But if you use everything you possess, your size, your speed, your strength, in every single play, you're going to wear guys down as the game goes on.
Okay. Well, now this week you're going to play in the Superdome. What is the loudest dome building that you've played in so far throughout your career? In college, obviously, as well.
I can't think of many domes I've played in. Honestly, I don't know if I played in a dome in college. This will be, from what I've heard, probably the loudest one I've played in so far.
It does beg the question about the adjustment you guys are going to have to make. We know the loudspeakers are blasting pretty good out here at practice, but this is definitely going to be an experience for you. And are you curious as to how you're going to navigate it?
I think, playing in a dome, having it enclosed definitely, helps the sound echo and stuff. I played at a very big school. We played in a lot of really, big competitive games. I played in a lot of really loud games. So I'd like to say that I'm prepared for the noise. But it's definitely going to be an adjustment. I'm not exactly sure how loud it's going to be, but I'm confident that I'll be able to handle the noise.
The one thing I do want to ask you about the Saints before I let you go, they've got some really stout linebackers. Demario Davis has been doing this a long time in this league. So I'm sure you're well aware of, what they're going to bring to the table. I'm not going to ask you for the game plan, obviously, but is there just in general one thing that you believe you've got to be able to do to set the foundation of success this week?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. It's being really productive in the run game. Getting those linebackers to step up to help open up the pass game. They're super physical downhill linebackers. And I think if we run the ball well, we can get a hat on those linebackers on every down. I think that's going to help open a lot of the other things in the back end.
Well, it was certainly a pleasure to walk into that winning locker room last week after the Chargers game. I know you guys are itching to get that feeling again.
For sure, no doubt.
Theo Johnson, we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.